Hi, this is Juha from NouxCloud and this video is about release notes March 24. Uh, this time we have a couple of big ones and then some smaller ones. Uh, let's first talk about custom UI. Uh, the idea of custom UI is that even though we have an extensive library of our own panels, sometimes the customers wish to use their own ones. And that is now possible. I'm not going to show the feature because it's rather complicated, but I will show you the documentation of it. You can find it in the wiki under custom UI. Here you can see that you can bring in your own kind of graphical libraries and then start using those as a panels. For example, here you can see that this kind of gauge for certain temperature, and then it is here as a custom UI panel, and then you can use it in the dashboards like rather normally. So I recommend you to familiarize with this documentation and then think about that how you can use it on your dashboards. It can be found, by the way, under the dashboard settings here then. And then another big one, language support. So this is something that has been asked every once in a while. It is now there. So under settings you can find languages, and here we have one example, our dear neighbor of Finland. We have a Swedish language here as an example. If you open this one or start creating a new one, you will find that there is a dictionary here, basically taking all the terms that we are using in these menus and whatnot. And therefore, if you give an translation for that term, then it can be used here. For example, if we now have this Swedish here, and then I will let me go to my profile, and here, because there's now both English as a default and then also this Swedish, if I change it here, you can already see that some of these change now. And finally, if I save this, you can see that basically all the menu names changed accordingly. So everything that is here coming from our library, and if dictionary translation is filled, then it will use it. Otherwise, it will use the default one, the English one. And under profile, I will go back now to the English one and save this. So here you can see the menus change back to English. Noteworthy here is that NouxCloud does not provide these translations. We provide only the tool for the dictionary. That means that the customer is responsible filling in these translations, so then they can be used. But yeah, that's there. So those were the quite big ones, adding quite a lot to the system. More freedoms to brand label it and customize it according to your end customers. But then the other ones, dynamic value mapping. Let me get back here, and if I now go to a dashboard, old familiar one, for example, here we are using value mapping, so I will go there. And here, as you remember, these are now static values. So if we know that value is something, or like in this case it's either 0 or 1, then we can use it as is. But if something is changing here, that you would need to refer to some other changing value, and if it's its own variable, then by clicking use dynamic values, then you can select here. Let's take the same one, for example so you could refer to this one, to these variables. And the use case for this is, I don't have such data now that it would make such nice use case, but the use case is that let's assume that this is not a static one that you need to use. For example, you have different batches and each batch has some kind of a desired limit value, and if you can get that value from the machine as a node, or even some other via integration from ERP system or something like that, then you can refer to that value, and then it will always be accurate, this mapping, regardless of which batch is ongoing, because the data is updating all the time. So this is quite a nice feature. Dynamic value mapping. And then we have a data flow comment block. It's under data flow feature. Let me see here. We have some data flows. No, I don't want to save this one. Let's take this one for example. So here's the ready-made data flow, creating an alert. So now under miscellaneous we have this comment. So you can drag and drop it like any other block here, and move it around. So this is what you can use to describe that what this is, or comment, so that it helps if you have several blocks, way more than this one. It helps to have some kind of comments there, that which is which. For example, in this case, this constant is the limit. So like this you can create more descriptions here that will then help you identify that, or clear out that what is this actually doing, this data flow. Okay, let me jump back. So those were the new features in the central app. And then if we go to the new edge features, we have added to the PLC handler this monitor variable feature, which basically means that it can now take only changed values instead of using just static polling interval. So it's there. And then we have also added this MQTT client subscribe possibility. If we take a look at let's go to the gateways. I have here this one virtual edge where we can show the supported protocols and features. Well, we have also had this MQTT broker here, so if we want to create one, it is possible to do here. But we also have MQTT client for the situations where you already have this MQTT server up and running. This means that you can now, by adding tags, you can either write to the topic, or meaning this toggle says publish, or then if you put it to subscribe. So if it's already there, then you can take that topic data and give it a node, and you can use that as a data source for the existing MQTT. It is possible to do that now. And then some small, well, this is a small improvement regarding the IP settings. Let me show you here as a slide. Basically, under gateway settings, there's a possibility to edit these IP settings, and the improvement is that there's not new functionalities as such. It has been just a bit more streamlined, because they were a bit all over the place before, and it was a bit difficult to identify that which row is which. So there's a small improvement now that it's easier to use. Okay, going back, let's continue with the improvements. So nothing new in that sense, but small improvements. Table panel value mapping. Let's go back to dashboards. If I'll add here a table type panel here, and let's add now, let's add a certain variable here that we have some kind of data. For example, this temperature is quite nice. And now the value mapping is also supporting these ones. As you can see that the temperature is now going down. Let's see if we can still do it. That let's add the value mapping here and select that same temperature, and let's say that if it's higher than what was it, 57 for example, saying it's too high. So you can see now that all the values that were over this 57, it will now replace or map the values as with single panels, but it will do it now for the each cell that is according to these conditions. Yeah, so that's how it works. Okay, let me close this one. And then for the series picker, series separated by color. That means it's also a small improvement, but very nice. If I go here, you can see here that different variables, so different time series are now different colors, white and gray. Meaning that if I keep adding these here, it's now a bit easier to identify that which series you are using, because there are a lot of these additional settings that you can select. So sometimes it has been a bit difficult to identify that which one you are actually using. So now it's better in that sense. All right. And then for the data filter panel, search and select all. That means that, as you perhaps remember, we have this data filter panel. It works like that it will select. Let's again take that one variable here and or one machine, and let's now take this machine on. As you can see, it only has 0 and 1, two options that it can have, or it has during this time range. Let me select here the drop down option. Now you can see the values here, and this is what has been added, so it's easier to select them all or select none. Or then this this filtering has also been added, so if I want to see, for example, this value 1, a bit easier to use now. Okay. Control panel ID. So we continue with the panel improvements. Perhaps you remember that this control panel is used if you want to actually write data or console the data source somehow. For example, it works like, let's take a number input here, and then let's take a button here. When you configure this button, let's use now our simulation actually. So this button sends the data to the machine, but it needs to know where it's taking the data. And as you can see, this number input here is now this data source here in the panel. But you can see that this is not necessarily, because it needs to have a unique identifier, and this is not necessarily a very nice one or very clear one. So let's stop this one for a while. I can edit this one and change this header. Let's call it, for example, input. So now it's a bit more describes what it is. But here also, then let's continue configuring this. Now you can see also this sort of description and then the identifier. That makes it a bit nicer to use, and as you can see, it was updated here when I updated this one here. So again, a small improvement, but quite nice for the user. Okay, that was basically everything from the user interface. We have added this node alias to the API. So you can check our API documentation from Swagger. so you notice that this node alias has been added there. Basically, it means, perhaps you remember, that we have these kind of nodes here, and I have already I added here for as an example this alias. So this, if this would be like my node, uh, it is now possible to fill this data via API. And the use case here might be that, for example, that if you have, for example, only serial numbers of the machines, and all the rest of the data, like which site which customer comes from some other place, like from ERP, based on that serial number, then you can integrate that data here somehow. Use only the serial number, and then get some more data here, like that. So that is the use case for this one. Okay, that was basically everything we had this time.